What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Steven Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. All right, guys. So tonight's topic, we're talking about corner, University of Central Florida, Aaron Robinson. Widely requested video, guys. A lot of you have been saying, hey, Gate, can you take a look at Aaron Robinson? Can you tell us what we think about Aaron Robinson? Complex. This is a complex player to break down, guys. Was a three-star recruit coming out of Florida. Had a lot of interest. You know, sometimes don't pay attention to the stars. Just look at who is recruiting the player. That really should translate to the star ratings, to be honest with you. But he had big-time offers and big-time consideration from Kentucky, good defensive school, from Florida, big program, and from Alabama, which he ended up choosing ultimately Alabama. I know that sounds weird because I just said UCF. Stick with me. Plays his freshman year at Alabama, gets in over 100 snaps, guys. The issue is, actually he got in over 200 snaps if we're going to get technical here in 2018. The issue is, he's a difficult guy to break down because he plays primarily, he did play some slot, but he played primarily on the outside of Alabama. But after he transferred to UCF for whatever reasons to why he made the decision, guys, I don't know why he did it, but he transferred to UCF, right? And now he kind of flips. He's more of a slot that plays outside sometimes. He's a very versatile piece. I'm very interested to see how teams will perceive him because I do think he's a utility piece, right? So do guys like CeeDee Lamb, like, you know, CeeDee Lamb kind of came into this league, right? Chase Claypool, these bigger, tall slots. Even J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, I think, is probably destined to be a tall slot in the NFL with some X split end capabilities, right? When you look at these guys, are they going to change the way that people view the slot? The nickel cornerback position, guys. Because begin with, I just want to run you down some names of nickel cornerbacks. These are the guys that you normally think of when you think nickel cornerbacks. A lot of lists have them as their top 5. I know we can get argumentative, guys. I guess they're talking about over their careers, okay? Mike Hilton, formerly of the Pittsburgh Steelers, undrafted. Nickell Robey-Coleman, formerly of the Eagles, the Rams, undrafted. Kenny Moore II of the Colts, undrafted. Quan Williams, San Francisco. I think he just signed somewhere, guys. I don't know if he came back to Sanford or not, but he was undrafted. Brian Poole, formerly of the Jets, or still with the Jets, I don't know. Undrafted. Those are the guys that normally stand out when you talk about slot or nickel corners, and you can see the history here with these guys. So you look at a guy like Aaron Robinson, you got to ask yourself, I mean, the Eagles have been guilty of drafting guys, right, that were slots or nickels, but there's complexity to it, and that's why I think Aaron Robinson matters. If you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, we've certainly been guilty of this, right? We've drafted nickel cornerbacks, but there's complexity to it. And one of those, situations was with a guy like Avonte Maddox, who primarily played outside as a smaller guy at Pittsburgh, but got projected to be a slot, right? So you look at a guy like Aaron Robinson, who's a tall guy, 6'1", over 190 pounds, right? And it's complex, right? He can play inside, he can play outside. It makes it interesting, guys, because it's an interesting discussion on the direction that the league is taking currently. But without further ado, guys, let me jump into his film. Let's talk some specifics about the deeper analytics in the film of Aaron Robinson. Let's get it.
Under 3 minutes to go in the first quarter. White in.
When you look at the deeper analytics on a player like Aaron Robinson, I do precaution people to be a little careful because there's a big difference between concepts of schemes, so zone-dominant concepts versus man-dominant concepts. And UCF is one of those schemes that used a lot of man-dominant concepts, so it can skew the data. So you have to really dig deep, right? Because if you went and you looked at something like his stats, basically over 20 yards, right? Passes over 20 yards on attempts, 7 targets on the year, 4 completions, okay? 1 touchdown, passer rating given up of 141.4. That's not good, guys. A coverage grade of 55.7. Then you look at something like his targets below 10 yards, so 1 to 9 yards. 9 targets, 7 completions, 1 touchdown given up, 154.6 passer rating suffered, and a coverage grade of 61.2. But then you look at something like the intermediate area between 10 and 19 yards, and you see that 13 targets on the year, 4 completions, 1 touchdown given up, a 74.5 passer rating, so passer rating coming drastically down there, and then a coverage grade of 60.9. If I was just basing this solely on the deeper analytics of the play here, I would probably say, be a little skeptical, right? But understand when you're talking about man-dominant systems, it's harder to guard in these. It's harder to cover players, guys. Let's just be honest. And what you're going to see here is that if you dig a little deeper, you can see something like only 2 coverage stops. That's not good. But then look at the forced incompletions, guys. 8. 18 would be crazy good. 8 forced incompletions on the season, which put him in the top 20, guys. It's just hard. I mean, you can see the average depth of target only being 9.6, guys, is 282nd in the league for NCAA football. So, I mean, there's complexity to the way this graded out. Just know that he came out of a very dominant man system. So, he was asked to do more than guys that are playing on windows, right? That are kind of playing in those zone where they're just basically covering their side of the field. So, that does factor into this. What I will tell you is this. He's versatile. And I think some teams are going to fall in love with his ability to play inside and play outside.
White into traffic and almost.
And you kind of look at this, guys, and you can see he's a very sticky corner. I think he plays with some physicality.
It's been impressive.
.525 to go. Brady White. Fire.
And you can see on the inside, he will get in there and disrupt and break up passes. But I will say this, when he got to the outside, there were times where I watched him and he would play something like a bail technique, and I thought he shot his hips pretty good, and I thought he got to the ball.
White.
But I also saw some instances on film, guys, where I will not lie, I was quite concerned with his ability to drive on the football.
First down and 10 from the 15. Into the boundary, complete.
As a matter of fact, he kind of gave up the go-ahead score with under a minute left in this Memphis football game.
Austin in motion. Into the end zone.
And it really stood out to, I'm a little concerned of the actual athleticism of this guy. He doesn't look like a 4'4" guy to me. He looks like a 4'5" or above athlete to me on the field. So I do wonder about his agility and his hips and how fast he can shoot on the ball here. But I think he's pretty smart, guys. I'm going to be honest with you. I think he has good instincts and understanding of where to be when I got an opportunity to watch him in zone. I just wonder if he's got the requisite hips to play dominantly inside of his own system. That's something I can't answer on this video, guys. It's something that would have to be answered once he gets into the NFL. Look, a couple times, guys, he really played out there tough. But I thought there were a couple times that where he really breaks on the ball and he does a good job getting physical, and he got in there for a couple of pass breakups on the outside. I thought there were other times where I would have liked to have seen him get in there and use his hands a little bit, right? Disrupt the receiver's routes. If you're not the most athletically gifted guy, but you've got good instincts and good awareness of where to be on the field, right? And you're tough, you're strong, use your hands a little bit inside of 5 yards to disrupt the route. There were a lot of times, guys, when I watched the film, it's hard to judge it because this is not coach's angles, guys. Without coach's angles, it's really difficult to make certain assessments. But I saw him get put into a trailing technique quite often, and that concerns me. I don't want to see a guy constantly being put inside of a trail technique. That's not what you want, guys. Not at this level of football. I mean, look, it may have been something that was specific to the concept that was being run, but without the coach's film, I can't see it. Maybe he's playing an inside or an outside technique, purposely putting himself in a trailing technique because he's playing to leverage of what the coverage system is. That's why it's difficult to say these type of things without the actual coach's film. So it kind of is what it is when you look at Aaron Robinson in that regard. But this is what I'll say kind of in conclusion as I talk about Aaron Robinson, guys. I will say this. I don't know what to make of him because he gave up about 58.6% completion rate, right? 17 completions on 29 targets. It's a little high, but that doesn't speak to the times you're not targeted because you have good coverage. And that's the difficulty you have with these type of things. That's why it's important to get into film. Because I think he's a better player than maybe some of the analytics would show you. I think this is where analytics has to marry to the film. So you have to be kind of careful not to just look at raw data points and then not put it into context. And I think that's going to be the difficulty that people will have with Aaron Robinson, to be quite honest about it, guys. So I think this is a guy that could slip in the draft, right? He could be a third or a fourth rounder just because some teams might take him off his board and say that, look, we view him as a nickel cornerback. You just don't draft nickel cornerbacks highly. But there's another side to me that is interested in this because the game is changing. We just saw what CeeDee Lamb could do from, big, tall, physical guy from the slot. We just saw what Chase Claypool could do. Like, there's an emergence happening from the slot, from tall slots. So I wonder if that makes a guy like Aaron Robinson more appealing, and maybe he does keep that draft value of the back end of the second into the third round, just simply due to the fact that the league is kind of changing if you watch that. Now, I guess the real question is has it changed enough initially yet to do that? I can tell you I would be interested to see what a guy like Gannon could do with a versatile piece like Aaron Robinson, right? A guy that you can play inside and outside, a guy that can kind of follow around guys that you look at different guys like Cooper who can play inside and outside as a slot receiver or as an outside receiver, whether that's a flanker or a boundary. You look at CeeDee Lamb, those type of guys. And Aaron Robinson can help you follow around a receiver and really make it difficult on defense.
White.
So, interesting. I am intrigued. It's definitely something I'm paying attention to, but I don't know how to phrase it quite yet, guys. Like I said, if you look at some of the bigger names that are slot corners, they went undrafted. But Aaron Robinson does have some of the similar traits to those guys that did get drafted in that he's got experience playing outside. Played it his freshman year at Alabama. And if you go to a game like Memphis, guys, and you watch this Memphis game, he played a ton of outside in Memphis. Although if you looked on the season, he played 484 snaps in the slot to only 100 snaps out wide. In 2019, he barely played any snaps outside, guys. Don't even waste your time. So, I'm definitely paying attention, but I don't know how to phrase it yet. All right, guys, that's what I got for y'all. Don't forget, if you want to support the channel, you can buy me a cup of coffee. Link is in the description below. Don't forget to like and comment on the video because that is what spikes the algorithm to suggest this to other people. And last but not least, if you are not subscribed, I would love to add you to the community. I just need you to hit that subscription button in order to do so. All right, guys, I appreciate y'all's time, and I will see you guys on the next video.